nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me away to go. Leave me, run like you never did. No, believe me, run like you never run before.
Good evening, all. How are we all doing? This is the Scottish Rugby podcast in association with the Scottish Rugby blog. I hope you're all well tonight. It's been one of those weeks, and as you can see, while the adults are away, the kids can play. So I'd like to welcome alongside me tonight, I'm Craig Manson, and tonight Rory Baldwin joins me.
Good evening.
How are you doing, Rory?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Getting there.
Look what I found. Hang on. Let me do this.
Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
There you go. They've given me
Man.
the keys to the starship.
Yeah, we've got the keys, and God help all the Glasgow Warrior fans and the Warrior Nation, because tonight it's Edinburgh all the way. No, it's not. I'm only winding you up. But,
I hope not.
So we are brought to you in association with the Scottish Rugby blog. Also, you can take part and become one of our special friends on Patreon. If you go www.patreon.com/Scottish Rugby podcast, you can, for the price of a beer a month, half a kebab a month, 6 chicken nuggets. Other nuggets are available, obviously. Or 2 light bulbs, I think, something like that. For that sort of price a month, you can come and listen to some of the musings that we have that maybe are a little bit less palatable for...
The dirty bits.
Yeah, the dirty bits. Come and see Rory's dirty bits on the Patreon.
That's not a pitch.
That's not pitching at all. Well, you know, you're always welcome to come along and join us and join an ever-growing band of friends and fellow rugby fanatics. You get access to our special super secret Facebook page where you can discuss all things rugby, and also, you get to be part of our gang. So if you want to do that, please do, as I say, visit www.patreon.com/Scottish Rugby podcast. If you want to get involved, please put some Facebook comments on if you want. It's under the Scottish Rugby podcast, Twitter at Scottish Rugby Pod, or X, I should say. We are on YouTube at the Scottish Rugby blog and on Twitch, would you believe, which I'd never thought I'd catch myself saying. And
I don't know what it is.
no idea. But then again, I still call X Twitter, so that doesn't really say much for me. And if you now, Rory, you're at the Scottish Rugby blog on X, and I'm at Scrum Champion. So if you have anything to say, you're welcome to find us and tag us in things. But please don't tag us in anything political, religious, or anything anything to do with England's rugby, I suppose. I'm not really sure.
Don't forget also to give us a like and a follow and a subscribe and all that on YouTube. We're trying the new thing. We're gonna improve our plugs, and what is it? They say ring the bell. I don't know if there's an actual bell that rings, but yeah, if you give us a like on YouTube, join in the comments on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Tell us, we're going to run out of things to say quite quickly, so give us some chat.
Absolutely. So we are going to get on with the news. There's been a little bit of news here and there and everywhere. We may as well start across the M8 in Glasgow with Ali Miller has been re-signed. Now I don't know if that was last week or the week before, but Rory, Glasgow holding on to. Let's just say, I think we all knew how good Ali Miller was, but we didn't think he was that good.
Yeah, I think good bit of business for them. Your friend, the aging Australian, isn't going to last forever. They need to. They're probably not quite as well endowed with back rows as Edinburgh. I'm sure that they would debate that, but yeah, I think good young player, plays with a bit of pace as well, which some of our back rows don't. So kind of dynamic. Good to see him. Yeah, good to see him get more opportunities in a Glasgow shirt and hopefully in a Scotland shirt before too long.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing for me, apart from doing everything right as a back rower, his pace is just outrageous. So Glasgow seem to be endowing their endowing, is that the right word? They're definitely endowing their forwards with a bit of pace. You just need to look at them, the almost to become latest rugby Jesus, the try scoring machine, who seems to have Johnny Matthews, who seems to have a bit of pace out in the wing a little bit. So Johnny McGinty likes to tell us that he's got a lot of pace. So yeah, and Ali Miller, I think, is going to, as I say, is fantastic. One thing I do want to point out, I not being off the Glasgow parish and not being not being someone who follows a lot of what Glasgow are doing, I was very, very pleased to see that they're holding a couple of quiet training sessions for fans with sensory requirements over the next month, and I think that's an absolutely fantastic thing to be doing. We all know the odd person who has got sensory requirements, and trying to take them to somewhere where there's a large baying crowd and a lot of noise can be very, very difficult, and they find it very, very overwhelming. So to be able to go and watch their heroes train and be involved, because I believe there's only 12 or 14 places at these things. So I think that's an absolutely fabulous what would you call it, initiative, and I think
that's a great idea.
It's an absolutely fantastic idea. So enough of us loving Glasgow. I'm glad to see you got a wee dig in about the aging Australian. That's well and truly becoming a thing, Johnny McGinty. So,
you're the host, you're not supposed to be neutral or something.
Oh yes, jeez. Oh, right.
Let's not worry about that.
So typical Edinburgh bias. Anyway, so talking about Edinburgh, do you want to talk about Edinburgh, Rory?
I suppose for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. So let's see where we are. So Charlie Shield, Angus Williams, and Darcy Ray all re-signed over the. What do you think of that then?
I'm, as you can tell from my face, those of you that are not listening on audio, I'm reasonably excited by that. No, I mean, yeah, it's good depth in the ranks of the squad. The fact that Edinburgh have also this week signed a non-Scottish qualified prop suggests that they're still not entirely convinced in the depths of their kind of propping ranks. But yeah, I mean, Charlie Shield is going to learn. He's going to learn a lot playing alongside Ali Price, Ben Vellacott, who are undoubtedly the kind of some way ahead in the kind of pecking order. But yeah, he'll be the man soon enough, probably.
Yeah, I think I'm slightly dismayed. Not so much with Angus Williams, but I'm not entirely sure what Darcy Ray brings to the squad. But Charlie Shield, well, we talk about Charlie Shield learning a lot, and always in other nine shadows, but he is getting older and he has been with the team for some time. So I think this next season, maybe not this season now because it's coming up to the end, but the next season that he's signed for, I think is going to be quite important for him, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of got to have a breakthrough if he's going to have a breakthrough, because Glasgow have got the likes of Ben Afshar and Jamie Dobie coming through at what seems like a faster rate, and he, if he's got ambitions for getting Scotland caps and things, then yeah, he's probably going to need to step up quite quickly, and as you say, have a blinding season. I think there's no kind of clear. Dobie probably is the clear forerunner, but that depends on how much game time he gets with Glasgow. But I think around him, there's a sort of gap between the kind of old heads. I mean, Ben White, I think is he's reasonably old. Let's just have a look. Obviously, Ben Velicott is getting on a bit now. Ali Price is getting on a bit. Ben White is 25, so actually Ben White will probably be in the box seat in that shirt for a wee while. But yeah, Charlie Shield is he's going to have to step his game up a bit in order to, if he wants to push on and kind of make himself the number 2, I guess, at Edinburgh. Is the next shirt available? The kind of Ali Price's push Ali Price out and onto the heap would, I guess, be his aim. There's also Scott Steele. Is he not supposed to be at Edinburgh?
Yeah. Scott Steele is, I believe, still with Edinburgh at the moment. I think he's been going through a few issues, so I don't think we'll see much of him over the next wee while. But I think that may be one of the reasons that Charlie Shield has signed on and only signed on for another year, if I'm right in saying. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Just as you say, I think to move on from last week's chat about Edinburgh, I think definitely, we need. Well, first of all, there's talk of Ali Price going elsewhere at the end of the season, and then also we need to build some sort of relationship between 9, 10. And the centres. So I think, just as you say, I think Charlie Shield needs to get involved in well, I'm sure he is involved, but he needs to have a fairly good season next season. You did. Other news is you did touch on it there. Paul Hill, tight head prop, 29 years old, tight head prop from Northampton Saints, is moving up next season. 6 England caps, so I'm not sure that he's going to. I don't know if he has a Scottish grandmother or anything like that to transfer over.
Word seems to be that he doesn't. He was born in Germany, and there's not been any word so far if he's got qualified or not.
So
there's not been any word that he is, rather. Which you would think they would have mentioned in a press release if it were the case. So yeah, he's obviously just.
Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say he's obviously just there for kind of. I mean, he's 29, so he's probably approaching peak propping. So yeah, I guess they're, as you say, or as I said earlier, they're maybe looking to beef up their stocks of propping. Obviously, he's not going to be required at international times unless he goes really well, and England call him up again to replace Dan Cole or something.
Yeah. Well, he certainly isn't from the Bavaria he's from is not just outside the Black Isle. So I think you're probably right. He's got 200 appearances or over 200 appearances for Northampton Saints. So he's not a bit part player when it comes to the Premiership. So.
Is he the one that's keeping Miller Mills on the bench then?
Well, I've got a feeling you're right, which is an interesting one. So, but they've obviously Miller Mills he's obviously got a contract still, but he's also with his appearances with Scotland, and his decent appearances for Scotland. I think he's being kept around as someone.
Yeah, I think he's not long extended with Saints.
Yeah. So welcome Paul Hill, and it'll be interesting to see. He's got fairly big shoes to fill of a VP nature.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. And Rory, the final bit of Edinburgh news just out today. Hamish Watson, is signed for another season.
Just the one.
Just the one, it seems to be. So
What is
and
the world
he's-
coming to when the pro teams are telling us how long the contracts are for?
What are they up to? This is the problem, is the fact that when they tell you how many years that they're actually someone signed for, you think, is that the truth?
Yeah, we don't believe them. Yeah, great move. I think he's still got plenty of life left in him. Certainly at club level, as he said, he kind of wants to try and push on with Edinburgh and maybe win something, do something good. And it's not looking like it's going to be this season. So I guess signing on for another season to try and do it next season would be the thing to do. Obviously, Edinburgh are going to undergo a little bit of a shuffle after this season because Bill Matta's off to Bristol.
Yeah.
So unless they're, even if they sign new people in, there's going to be some changes in the back row there. So probably Richie playing 6 or Crosby. Maybe we'll move to 8. You never know. Yeah, I think it's a good move from Edinburgh. It's a good move for Mish. He's been a pretty faithful servant to the club, and getting more Scotland caps are not out of the question. He still has moments where he kind of looks like the pinball of old. I think, yeah. So another good season. Certainly if he can propel Edinburgh into the form where they actually win something, then he's probably going to demand inclusion almost. If he's part of a something winning back row.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because really, I was about to say just when we were talking about Hamish signing on for another year, there's a couple of lads there, Luke Crosby, Ben Muncaster, Connor Boyle, that are all going to have to step up, and we need to see more of them because they were bright young things in the Richard Cockrell and in the Richard Cockrell era, and they're not being involved as much anymore in the Edinburgh game. So but then I think to myself, well, actually, when are they going to get game time? I suppose it's going to be when Scotland are away on tour, etc. Because you've got Jamie Ritchie, you've got Hamish Watson, you've got Luke Crosby there. You've also got the spectre of Magnus Bradbury hanging around as well. That may or may not happen.
Is there word that he might come back?
There is word that he may come back because he's not happy with the deal that he's getting at Bristol. And you can imagine, if Magnus Bradbury's been a starter for Bristol all for the last 2 seasons, and now Bill Matta, they're not spending money on Bill Matta to not use him.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how. And the one thing, and no matter, we can say this because John Anderson isn't here tonight, but Magnus Bradbury has played incredibly well for Bristol. So I can imagine he's not best pleased that he may spend a lot of time on the bench.
Yeah, he's probably feeling a little unloved if he feels like he's putting in the performances and then they're not offering him much because they can't afford it because they've signed his replacement at Edinburgh.
Yeah. So and good for Bill Matta. He's moving a little bit closer to London, which he thought he was going to in the first place. Edinburgh, just outside London. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah. Anything else on the news? Anything else that's come up across your radar?
Nothing that springs to mind. I'm sure we can always pick it up later if someone mentions anything.
Well, we'll definitely, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, or those of you who are not patrons, we will be, why aren't you patrons? And if you do become a patron, you can come across and talk and listen to our discussions about Edinburgh and Glasgow games at the weekend, and what we might have coming up at this weekend coming. So we'll move on, and this is the one that we want to talk about, especially on open air, Scotland v France. And one of you absolute lucky duck, you were there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because of a change of job, and it means I'm busy every Saturday. So unfortunately, I couldn't be there. What a day, Rory. How did you get on?
Yeah, it was great. Myself and Al, one of the blog co-founders, we went down. Yeah, it was great. The sun came out. I mean, I was trying to remember the last time I was actually down at Murrayfield for a game, and it was it was a good while ago, back when Jando got us blackballed. And yeah, so probably probably at least 5 years, that if not more, since I was down there. And obviously it was at the mini Murrayfield, that first time going to the Dam Hive. And yeah, reasonably impressive. The comments that people make about pillars are probably quite valid. There was a few bits where I had to kind of go either side of the pillar just to, as the play passed it, the one in front. But yes, we were stood on the terraces, which was a new thing for me, watching international rugby certainly. Sun was out. It was Eleanor actually put up some talking points on the site earlier about the game, and she had a fair point about the weather. It was quite hard to tell how blustery the conditions were out on the pitch. In the stands, it was pretty much fine. Didn't have to queue for a beer. We were actually the beer queue was so little that we could actually race each other around the two lanes and see who got to the front first. Yeah, so it was a great day out. Good game of rugby. I've watched most of it back just to see all the bits that I missed up the other end of the pitch, and yeah, a shame about the result. I'm sure we'll kind of dig into that.
Yeah, and for me, obviously I visit the Hive on a regular basis, not so much regularly as I used to. But I guess I think you were in the. Am I right in saying you're in the Lothian stand? So you get so when you're in the terrace, but you do get so close to the game and so close to the players. It is fantastic. You've put up a nice wee comment from Brian Dalgleish, I should say. Gutted that the women did not get a losing point. Atmosphere was brilliant. It did look like the atmosphere was brilliant. Especially with the sun coming in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually, because watching it on the telly, the atmosphere sounds a little bit better. It's like they've kind of sweetened it. I mean, there was a good atmosphere, but the game made it sound like it was kind of constant. For me, it sort of flowed around. The bits right next to where the play was were always jumping, but if it was over the far side, it was a little bit quiet sometimes, especially when there was a lot of stuff going on the Scottish try line. A lot of goal line defending. But yeah, I mean, it was like when they scored the try and the place went mental. It was great.
Yeah, and so obviously it wasn't Scotland's day. So the 15 points to France, 5 to Scotland. But France did have to batter the door down against Scotland. Our defence seems to have hugely improved. Looking at Alex Stewart, for example, she's third in tackles made throughout the whole tournament at the moment. The defence, Rory, how did that look? Were you suitably impressed?
Yeah, I mean, it was something else to see. They never really, they never give up. They were straight up off their feet, ready to form the line. They looked incredibly disciplined in the defence, and I mean, I think that probably told. And they didn't really start doing that sort of sea of penalties against that can happen as Scotland teams get a bit tired later on in the game. They were on the right side of the referee for most of it, and I mean the issue really was France's defense was also excellent. But yeah, I mean, Rachel Malcolm was kind of leading from the front, putting the tackles in. I think one thing I definitely noticed watching back is how much work the back row got through. Evie Gallagher, Alex Stewart, as you said, and Rachel Malcolm. They were everywhere, and I think especially when you see the sides kind of lining up and you see them at the line out and stuff, the French kind of pack, the back 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 were a lot taller and bigger physically than the Scotland women. So to kind of shackle them when they're charging at you, I think was it was a real effort. I think the issue was possibly that the French defense was also very good, and it didn't, and our girls didn't really have the kind of that physical edge to punch the holes all the time. They were Evie Gallagher certainly made a good fist of it. But I think their second rows were getting them over the gain line, and I think Scotland found it a lot harder to get over the gain line, as is kind of backed up by the kind of the line breaks and things. The stats for those are less impressive than the defensive ones.
Yeah, I think definitely where France punched holes or scrambled defence worked incredibly well.
Yeah.
And also things like Evie Gallagher getting that turnover on our own try line was quite something to it's a great moment. But then with France being in our 22 and attacking in the last 5 minutes, it was just seemed to be all France's pressure, and something was going to give, and unfortunately, it did at the last minute. Although they were winning at that point anyway, but to get that final try just really put the lid on the game.
Yeah, I think it was kind of it cast a quite harsh reflection on the game. Obviously not compared to last year's result, but compared to that game in particular, it's debatable about whether the Scotland women did enough to win it, but they certainly did enough to give themselves a chance going into the kind of final 5-10 minutes, and to not even come away with a losing bonus point, I think is mean spirited of the gods.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm going to go all Clive Woodward here, so please excuse me. But the French side, they have some phenomenal players in there. They're 9 now. I've forgotten their 9's name, and that's why I'm sounding like Clive Woodward.
Well, I might be able to find. Oh no, I don't think I did put the teams up on the site.
Yeah,
so you're just going to have to Clive Woodward it.
Yeah, Clive Woodward. She was phenomenal. Our running lines were fantastic. She was always there. You could always spot her in and around the attack. And they're 12. I forgot that again. Yes, just fantastic hands. Always looking to get through the gap and get the ball away. But they're I think a mixture of that and their offloading. Really, their attack was something else.
Yeah, I mean they played like you would want a France team to play. But I think it's probably a credit to Scotland that the pressure that they were putting them under defensively was leading to a lot of handling errors, a lot of turnovers in Scotland's favour. France looked a lot more proficient in getting the ball away from the ruck, and as you say, the line breaks and offloads were all over the park. But at the same time, they were almost forcing it too much. I think once they realised that Scotland weren't here to roll over by 55 points, they maybe should have kind of dialed it back a little bit. I mean, I'm all for the offload and I love to watch it, but when it wasn't working, they could have taken a bit tighter control of that game. And the fact that they didn't is credit to Scotland, but lucky for Scotland as well, because there were several moments when you were kind of thinking, oh, this could get a bit sticky, but it never did, and the Scotland women never let their heads go down, and obviously they went in at halftime ahead, which probably nobody really saw coming. So yeah, really good stuff. I think France maybe overplayed. I mean, there was an almost try in our corner when the winger should have just backed herself and gone over in the corner, but instead tried to cut inside and then got smashed by Rona Lloyd. And then I think they ended up not scoring from that. The second time they tried it, they just went over in the corner. But I think possibly a little quicker ball away from the ruck would have helped Scotland. There were a few times when Katie Mattinson was sort of having to run in to fetch the ball, when really you would have liked to let her to be in place ready to pass it as quickly as possible. Whether that would have made a difference to the French defence getting set, I'm not sure. But we'll kind of never know. I think Meryl Smith was a wee bit underused as well at the back. But I don't know how you bring her into the game more.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a mixture of two things. I think bringing her into the game it's to do with your attack shape, but also down to the player as well. There's a lot of 15s and wingers who are continually wanting to get into the game and continually want to have the ball in their hands. And I'm not attacking Merrill at all. She just maybe a player that prefers to be back there, or our coaches are saying, we want you to stay. We don't want you to get hugely involved.
Yeah, I mean,
in the
you
game.
never know the messages that are coming on.
Mm.
There's perhaps an argument to say maybe the next game's not the time to do it, but to say, if you're 20 minutes from the end and you're bringing Chloe Raleigh off the bench, why not move, do a Blair Kinghorn, move Meryl Smith to 10 and give Helen Nelson a rest.
Yeah.
Especially she wasn't having a great day with the boot. Although having watched it back, I think the second one, the conversion was actually just the wind caught that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think trying to find it was unfortunate for Corinne Grant as well. She didn't get many chances on the other wing. I mean, neither did Rona Lloyd really. There was a lot of tackling to be done, and they all did it very well.
Yeah, very much so. So again, friend of the pod, Ellis Martin.
What a shift.
What a shift! A fantastic. How can I say it? I wasn't going to say standing. I was going to say, she's managed to walk into there. She's obviously been knocking on the door on a regular basis, been on the bench a lot. But she's been able to now step up because of the unfortunate injury to Lana Skeldon. So, she's really working well and got her. Now, is that a debut try she's now got? Is that her first try, or she had a try before?
I'm not sure. I don't know if the stats exist.
Yeah, but fantastic for her. She's, it's great to see her coming through, and now it's a bona fide starter for Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, she put in some effort for the kind of 60 minutes that she thought she was going to be on. Line out, I think there were a few line outs went astray, but not as many. It seemed noticeably better than last week. Excuse me. And then going well on the loose as well, but she probably wouldn't have been too chuffed having to go back on again when Molly Wright got injured. With her first involvement in the game, which was horrible and unfortunate. There's nothing much you can do about that. But I mean, I think it's little things like that, the breaks that Scotland didn't get, because obviously by the end of the game, then Ellis had been playing probably at her top level for 79 minutes, and then I think she picked up a little injury, possibly something to do with her hand, with about 15 to go, and it looked like she was tiring a bit, and that happens across the team. I don't know why they didn't maybe bring on a few more of the bench options. You could definitely see the level start to drop as they got tired later in the game.
Don't tell me that we have a Scotland international team and coaching group that are not using the bench properly. Come on now, Rory. That's not.
No, that would never happen. That would never happen. I thought Mary McDonald looked good, looked sharp at scrum half when she came on though. She came off the bench.
And that I think that's an important one as well. I was going to touch on it. I think Katie Matteson is a great player. I find that sometimes she is prone to mistakes, and little lapses of passing tends to be. Sometimes you do see it when she's getting tired. It gets it goes sky high or it goes very low.
I think that was kind of the problem, wasn't it? Is it they were all, a lot of them were putting in best performances or high really high level performances, and a prime example is Lisa Thompson at 12, who did some really superb things, took on a massive amount of work doing the kind of kicking from hand, and then just had like a 1 minute nightmare that kind of cast a shadow over the the performance, where she missed touch on a penalty, then knocked it on, and then gave away a penalty, all in space of about a minute. And it was just that, there were a couple of little kind of mistakes that just happened at the kind of worst possible time which is fine. It's Scotland. We're used to that sort of thing happening to us, but and I don't know what you can do to stop that happening other than say concentrate or focus or something. It must be something like that is the answer. And Gregor Townsend's been trying for 2.5 World Cup cycles to solve that problem and hasn't got anywhere. So I think in terms of the skill level, though, you can see it's gone up massively.
Well, that was the next question I was going to ask you, Rory. Is now we've talked about this regularly on the pod about Scotland women and their contracts, professional contracts, and the ability now to the jump in performance that we've all seen. Are we at a stage now where obviously this is another learning season for us, but we're building and building and building? Are we at a stage now where we can have a fair shot next season at being second in the Six Nations? Because obviously there's a fair bit to catch up with England. But do you see us starting to nibble away at that second place because we've got the ability to beat France, we've got the ability to beat Italy, we've got the ability to beat Ireland and Wales? I think
we're probably not really going to know until the end of this tournament, where we see how close we are to each team in our kind of new, now that we've got our Emperor's new clothes on, or our new New Look Scotland professional setup. On the evidence we've got so far against Wales and against France, and obviously to a certain extent the WXV2 last year, it's definitely paying kind of clear and obvious dividends. I think the time that they got together last year for the WXV2 has probably helped in terms of establishing defensive systems and stuff like that. I think there's still probably some things about kind of skills, passing. Some of the kicking was brilliant, some of the kicking was not too brilliant. It's practice, and now we've got these pro contracts, and now they're getting to play week in, week out, whether that's in England or whether that's in the Celtic Challenge. It's only going to help. I mean, I think in terms of how close we're going to be, I guess we'll probably find out not this weekend, but next weekend against England, who are far and away the best team, certainly based on that France showing. But then if all the offloads that France tried stick, suddenly they're brilliant, So who knows? It's the mad thing about all the versions of the Six Nations, is that it sort of changes week to week, and you think, well, we've got a great team, so we're going to walk it this year. But that team, by the midpoint or the end of the championship, could look completely different due to injuries and all sorts of things form. So yeah, I think we kind of need to test ourselves against England. I mean, if we can keep the score to a reasonable level against England, which is quite a big if, that points difference against France is probably going to help us come the end of the championship, in terms of, assuming the other results go the other way. But if Scotland can finish third in this tournament, then that's, unprecedented and genuine cause for celebration. But also I think that would get us World Cup qualification without having to rely on anything else. Absolutely. Because England and France have already qualified. Yeah, definitely. And so we're just going to wrap up in the next couple of minutes and move on to Patreon But last bit of the pod should really be should be turned over to Rachel Malcolm. Your thoughts on Rachel Malcolm? Are we looking at a Scottish captain that's going to be held up as one of the greats? As in, when I say, I think, I don't see why not. I'm not just talking about just her as a player. Yeah. I'm talking about as a captain, because from what we can see, skipper, yeah, she seems to have the hearts and minds of all of the Scottish players, as well as a fair few of the fans. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't see why not. I mean, we've some of our, or most of our Scotland greats have never won anything, so I don't think winning anything necessarily counts against you, and she's already won the WXV2 anyway. So
Yeah.
she's doing better than most of the kind of equivalent men's candidates. I mean, yeah, you can see it's. I noticed, you can almost see from the terraces. You can't quite hear, but you can see some of the chatting going on, and the way that she approaches referees is, it's not Jamie Ritchie. It's not sort of argumentative, and it's not Finn Russell being too chatty. It's a different thing. It's it's two women talking to each other. I think the referee did get slightly narked off with her by the end, and I saw the ref kind of dismiss her because she was obviously wanting to query something. But by that point, the ref was probably getting tired, and she'd missed a few. There were a few French things that got missed towards the end of the game that she was probably trying to highlight. But I think by that point, Scotland were maybe giving away a few too many penalties, and they didn't want to do that. But yeah, I think in terms of the effort, there's probably a few similarities. Not just positionally with Jamie Ritchie, but when Ritchie has one of his good games, it was kind of like Rachel's good game at the weekend. It was massive work rate, massive defense, carrying hard. And yeah, I think you can see clearly the team love her, and we'll play for her.
Yeah, that seems to come across. We've heard on another podcast a couple of girls who play with her getting very emotional about her, and I think it seems to be that she's managed to get everyone to buy in to what she's selling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, although as a doctor, she'd have more sense than to be playing rugby, but.
Yeah, well, there is that as well. There is that. So, so that's us for the free pod. We're going to go over and dissect both Edinburgh and Glasgow's games at the weekend, and have a wee chat about what's coming up, and also we have a little bit of hands in the ruck as well, and we'll see where we are from there. So just at this moment in time, we're going to move over. So I want to say thank you to Rory for helping me cobble this together tonight, because we had a couple of, we had to try and get this together for everybody. It's been a little bit of an Edinburgh loving tonight, but that's just because we're both Edinburgh loves. So that's the way we are. So you just have to accept us. So thank you so much for joining us, Rory. Thanks again for everything that you're doing for us.
No problem.
And we hope to speak to you next week, and we can talk about an Edinburgh and Glasgow win at the weekend.
Here's hoping.
Thanks so much. Bye.